Matt Kitchen from LPT Realty and Jacobs & Co. Thank you for joining me today. Again, we were saying I was 16 when we met.
I think so. I just remember you were
hair almost as short as yours.
Yeah, you were starting to learn how to play an acoustic guitar.
Yeah,
and that we met Branch at the same time. But yeah, somewhere in there,
something like that. That's crazy. A lot of life has happened. So tell me about what you're doing now in Realty and everything, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I'm 45, so I'm officially half dead. That was my birthday last week. It's always been the number. I can't believe that we've known each other that long. That's insane.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep up with my kids. It seems like every time they go upstairs, they come down. They're 5 years older every day.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a blur. And I'm, inundated, right? 6 years. I'm just ending my 6th year full time in my real estate business, which means that my teaching career is in the rear view.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy.
I did that for 20 years or so?
19, 20 years. Yeah. High school teacher, assistant principal, miss the instruction with the students a ton, miss the other stuff about zero.
Yeah.
So
everything else.
A big faith step, right? To take the leap that we did. But my wife was kind of pushing me, and I had an entrepreneurial spirit that I knew just needed to be fed differently, and took a leap of faith, and it's been quite a journey.
And there's like a cap on how much you can earn unless you got a bunch of side jobs while you're a teacher or a principal and that sort of stuff, right?
It seemed that way. I felt like I had a job in the morning, I would teach, and then I'd have a job in the evening.
Yeah.
And look, you don't get into teaching for money, and it's not one of those like, I can't believe type things. Like it was a missional work, and I loved it.
Yeah.
But 3 kids, Northern Virginia, and I had an itch, and you get paid based on how old you are as a teacher, unfortunately, and that should change.
So who kind of it was Kathleen that was saying you should do Realty, or you kind of like were thinking about what else I could do next?
It was terrifying because my identity was a teacher. That's just what I was. And then when I really peeled it back, it came down to I loved helping people. I loved talking to people. I felt like those were gifts that God gave me. And so when I knew I was going to leave, I still had to figure out where I was going to go and what I was going to do. And I had 2 rules, right? I want to be a problem solver. I want to help people. Here's the catch. I want to be totally in charge and in control of my income, whether it's really good or really bad. It was just on me. And I wanted that challenge, and sat down with some folks, Scott Jacobs, the broker owner of Jacobs & Co. And we really just talked about those gifts. And he's like, hey man, I think you'd be a natural. And I love doing that type of work anyways, but it's been awesome.
Well, and you do like your own renovations. You've been doing that for as long as I've known you. So you kind of understand that. And like, there's still education in what you're doing. With way more money involved than what a teenager has.
You hit the nail on the head, right? Like sitting down with folks with their biggest asset ever. People sell houses 3 or 4 times in their life, 4 or 5 maybe, but it's a massive undertaking, and it's educational the whole way through. Yeah. It's I get to implore all of that. The stakes are, I wouldn't say higher because you're dealing with kids over here and their futures, and you're dealing with people's assets, but I would say they're both very extremely important. And so I get to scratch that educational side of it as well.
Yeah. Sure. So have you had people, like, were some of your first clients just people you knew from church and school and everything?
It was cool, right? I think, you 20 years in high school. Yeah, I think I did the math, 2,000 or 3,000 students that are now anywhere from 25 to 35 roughly, and all their families. So what a cool, warm network, right? Yeah. I could, be a part of their high school career, and then all of a sudden they're getting married, having babies, and they need a place to go. They're folks that still knew me from that, obviously really active in our church. So I had a really nice, warm network to, you don't want to go out and just be like, hey, let me sell your stuff. You know what I mean? And we'll talk about that in a little bit on how to earn the right to do this. Right. But there was trust already built in, at least with the ethic and the integrity.
Right. And I think like for real estate agents, you don't have that reputation, but a lot of people are like, well, I'm just going to get my license and, never sell a house ever. Yeah. And they don't take it seriously, and they don't maybe get a shot even, depending on if they're at the right brokerage or if they can even find someone to help them like that.
Sure. I think there's a lot of folks that I do think it's too easy to get your real estate license. I'm going to go on record and say that. I think it's too easy to get into a lot of industries.
Yeah.
But look, 10 to 20% of agents do 80 to 90% of the deals, right? And so there are a lot of people in our industry that are wonderful people that got their license just to, help friends at church or maybe just invest on themselves, which is fine. But when you're going to sell a major asset, it becomes kind of a decision you have to make where, sure, I'm sure your cousin's a realtor, but is that the wisest decision?
Yeah, exactly. Does he really know what he's doing? Does he have any like people skills or, negotiating skills or anything like that? Like communication skills. That kind of gets me into my first question.
Sure, yeah.
So how important is it to have good, strong communication skills as like when you're hiring a realtor?
Listen, it's this is something I tell folks when I meet with them the first time. Whether they know me, I was introduced warmly to them, or if it's just a complete stranger. My goal through the entire transaction time together is that I'm trying to predict every single possible question you could have, and I'm trying to answer it thoroughly before you ask it, because I don't want you to ever be surprised.
Yeah.
And so that's going to go into a different skill, which we'll talk about later, but I don't want people to be stressed. It's a stressful thing.
Yeah.
There's stress.
Yeah. We're going through it right now.
I'm going to try to mitigate that.
Yeah.
I don't want people to be surprised. I don't want people to feel like I'm being short. I don't want people to think that I'm, I do this every day. And so Matt's just talking to me like I know what this is. That's where the teacher side of me comes in, right?
Absolutely.
I'm going to sit down with folks and make sure that there is, I don't care how long it takes. And this is before we even sign a contract to work together. I think I get clients because of the approach of,
yeah, I think so.
It's just like, hey guys, let's really sit down and really talk through this. I mean, it might take 5 cups of coffee and 4 meetings for you to feel totally comfortable, where I think some agents are going to say, hello, look at all the stuff I've done. Here's a contract. Take this. I got to earn your trust.
Yeah. And then because later on when you're negotiating everything, they need to trust that if you say, hey, we should take this right now, it might be less than you wanted or whatever, or different terms, but to have someone that they've already trusted, like, okay, if that's what you think.
Well, my clients and I have to have such a warm rapport of how we're going to handle each step, because there will undoubtedly be a conflict. There will undoubtedly be a hurdle. Something will break that you didn't think would. Yeah. Something will come up in the deal where cooler heads have to prevail. And I already have to have set that expectation. Yeah. And that's the initial communication stuff that happens.
And so that kind of goes into like integrity and professionalism and stuff like that. Like part of the reason you're like that is because you have good communication skills, but because of your integrity reminds you that you need to have good communication skills.
Yeah, let's just say this up front. In every industry, not just mine, there's people that are really honest and they're going to treat you right every time. Unfortunately, that seems to be the smaller group of people. I am a salesman. I hate that term. I don't want to be a sales. I do too. But I am selling things, and I need to be good at it. But I want to be as far from that title as possible.
Yeah, or the expectation.
Yeah, right. So look, I deliver good news and bad news every day to folks that trust me. And I tell people up front, I'm going to have bad news to deliver you probably at some point. Yeah. And that's okay, because some things are unpredictable, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to tell you something that's untrue to get you to sign with me. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you your house is worth something that it's not to get you to sign with me and then deliver bad news later. Yeah. I have had folks not hire me because I was so honest that they didn't like what I had to say.
Really?
And that's okay. I felt good that I was delivering, to the best of my knowledge, the market knowledge that I had. And they may have had a different opinion, which is totally fine. Yeah. But
it's better for both parties. If they make that decision, then okay.
Totally fine. And look, that's fine. And, it's one of those things that I have to be okay with. When I leave any phone call, any meeting, I want folks to feel like Matt just spoke and said and shared his opinion on what he, I didn't even like what he said, but I understand why he said it, because I don't want you to be surprised later. I don't want you to be caught off guard later, those types of things.
Yeah, I mean, I do the same thing in my business too. Like, unfortunately, things are going to cost more because you don't maybe quite understand it, but I'm not going to be the cheapest, not because I want more money, but because I know how long it's going to take to do the task. And other people might not be telling you that. They sell you something for cheap. You're going to have to come back to me anyway.
Sure. Yeah. It's one of I would rather just people know up front exactly what's in store. Yeah. Good, bad, indifferent. I say that a lot. Good, bad, indifferent. You're going to know ahead of time what we're going to be dealing with. Right. And if we can get past that scenario before we even agree to work together, then there's really nothing that could come up that that we haven't already discussed in some capacity that we're going to have to solve together.
Right. And we don't have this on the list, but how do you feel like your faith has affected that integrity and communication and stuff?
I'm an honest person, right? And I want people to be honest with me. And it sucks when someone's not honest with you.
Yeah.
I've had transactions where I haven't been communicated with honestly from folks. And that's their prerogative. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not here to judge anybody for how they do their business, but I have a colleague who's fantastic, and we talk through these things, and he says to me like, hey, when you put your head down tonight and you go to sleep, can you sleep and rest easy, knowing that you said what needed to be said, not what somebody wanted to hear. And I rest in that, and it's okay. Here's the thing. God is going to protect me and my business. I pray before meetings and say, Lord, if I'm not supposed to have this deal, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And that's just mine. No one else has to work that way, and that's fine. And that's private for me. I don't do that in meetings, but I do that going in, and I have to trust that the Lord's going to protect me from deals that I shouldn't be involved in.
Right. So that takes away the fear of, if the integrity, but some people that, what if I just lie a little bit? What if I just like deceive a little bit? I'll get the sale. But if you trust that God's got you, then hey, it's not the one.
Yeah, my wife is the one that always reminds me, and I wouldn't say not that I need reminding, but I do need reminding. I'm a dumb
we
dude.
all do.
Yeah. And she'll always say like, God has never not provided.
Yeah.
Right. So like every year at the end of the year, like right now in this season, I'm looking backwards at 2025, and I'm just overwhelmed by what God has blessed our family with in the business this year. But this is also the time of year where I start thinking, how on earth am I going to replicate that in 2026? And I used to talk about it openly. I come in, hey, Kathleen, like, what are we going to do? She'll just be like, hey, how many years does God have to provide business before you're just going to rest in the fact that he's going to? Right. Or if he doesn't, that's the plan.
Yeah.
And that's
maybe there's a new thing that comes along, who knows?
Right. And at 45 and the half dead thing, like maybe this is the beginning of a little subtle wisdom. I don't claim to have a bunch of it, but I guess I'm old enough and mature enough to now look back, and I've actually got a record of, wow, look at what God did. Look at what he did. Look at what he did. Yeah. So if I'm stressed, that's not going to go away. I'm a guy. I love to provide. Yeah. But it's getting easier to just say, he always has.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to rest in it.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I'm kind of in that phase too. Like, I have a business now, and it's doing okay, and all the bills are paid, and we get to go on vacations and stuff. And I'm like, how am I going to top that? Yeah. But it's not me that's going to top it. You know, I'll say it's like, God's been providing for us for a long time, and it's scary. What if all your clients just went away all of a sudden? Like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
But
watching you, I hope that doesn't happen. Watching you over the years, hone skills and get new skills and put yourself out there, which is something I had to do as well. And bump into a wall and back up and regroup and bump into, I do the same thing in my business. What works, what doesn't, how do I, navigate? But at the end of the day, when you sit back and really reflect, I think we lose perspective when we stay in that what's next mentality versus looking backwards and being like, look at that, right? Look at that, right? So like
it's you got to remember to do that, like journal or something, I don't ever do that kind of stuff, which makes me kind of be in that sort of fight or flight all the time. We got to get this done. We got to work hard, and that you need that piece too, but you also need to like not be stressed because you look at how far you've come. So that's like something you have to remind yourself, and Jesse's really good at doing that for me too. So what are some like realistic expectations that someone should have when they're like going to buy a house, or they're looking for a realtor or anything like that?
Yeah. And maybe I'm sure good agents will say this. I say it a lot when I meet folks, especially if it's not a warm introduction. I think it's important to talk to 2 or 3 different people. And you'd be like, Matt, why are you saying that? Like, if you're the first person, what if they go talk to somebody else and hire somebody else? That's okay. Maybe they're a better fit, right? Yeah. But how could you make a decision as a person if you haven't heard from 2 or 3 different professionals, right? So I think you shouldn't be picking an agent to represent you I think some folks are just like, who's going to market my house the best? Super important.
Yeah.
Who's been a real estate agent the longest? That one's dangerous.
That's very dangerous.
Very dangerous. We'll talk about that.
How many houses have they sold?
How many houses have they sold? It's important, right? Because look, if they've done 100 transactions, that's awesome, right? That's good. That's good. What if they've done 6? But what if they're incredible?
Right.
Right. There were in the teaching industry, you know, people like, oh, they're a new teacher. I've seen first and second year teachers be the best teacher in the building because they just were. Mm-hmm. And they connected and they communicated differently. So, you know, the time in the business doesn't always tell you everything. Right. I know a lot of agents that have been in the business a long time, probably a few years longer than they should have.
Yeah.
Right. And that's okay. But it's good to have experience. It's good to have a track record, but don't let it be the only barometer of your decision. There's so many different things, but I would say communication and integrity to me are the non-negotiables. If someone can't sit across the table from you and openly discuss comfortably all of your questions, your fears, what you're nervous about, and they can't do that, if they can't do that just off the cuff, that's concerning to me. You want someone that can be able to have the ebbs and flows of a conversation. But secondly, honesty, right? Like, how can you tell someone's being honest? That's a tough one. Yeah. Right? There's people that can be really honest. There's people that can lie and it sounds really honest. That's kind of where I start with folks, but how would you know if they didn't talk to 2 or 3 different agents? I think that you should take the time to interview 3 people, 4 people. See if their pricing is the same. See if their approach is the same.
Yeah.
Go back and interview someone a second time. I've interviewed with people 2 or 3 times because their interviews brought me back, right? So, which is fine. Look, I love competing. I want to win.
Yeah.
But if I don't win.
So are these leads for you? Are they just people that are coming to Jacobs & Co. and LPT?
Sure, it's a great question.
Or friends. I mean, what percentage are they?
So the goal, right, is to have 100% referral, right? That's the goal, right? You build a book of business and people. So
you sit down one time, they're like, no, he killed it for them.
Yeah, that's what you want, right? I treat every client like, look, you know, I want to be your realtor for life. It may or may not be, but I certainly want our experience to be so good where if you're even just getting coffee a year later and you hear a coworker just be like, yeah, I think we're going to sell, like you just sprint and you're like, don't talk to anybody else but Matt. Right. That's what you want. That's ideal.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere between 90 and 92% of a warm referral. Oh, really? At this point, which I'm really proud of.
Almost there.
Almost there. And look, I don't want to always be at 100. I love meeting new folks and I network pretty well, and I'm branching out and trying to. I want to rub shoulders and meet new folks, but I love a good warm introduction. Right? There's trust that's already built in. If you say Matt's a really great guy and I trust him, then 60%, 70, 80%, 100% of my job might already be done.
Right.
And now I just gotta show up and show them that I'm good at what I do. Mm-hmm. I love that. But I'm also, I meet new folks all the time. People will say, hey, meet this coworker. And I'll go into that and I'll say, hey, I know that so-and-so recommended me. I just said this the other day. I know we've known each other a long time. I don't want you to hire me because I know you.
Right.
Like, I need to earn this job, right? So when we do this, I want it to be like, pretend like that doesn't exist. And if I don't knock your socks off from a market knowledge and a stamp, then you shouldn't hire me. This is a big deal.
It's a big deal, yeah.
It's a big deal. Don't hire me because we go to the gym together. Hire me because I earned it.
Yeah, exactly. So where most most referrals have just been people over time, like church and school and just knowing all of Gainesville and Brentsville, Knoxville area.
Yeah.
And Warrenton.
Yeah, taught in 2 high schools and been active in the same church since we met, right? And so my parents are, active in church and my wife grew up in this community. So, there's been some really fun built-in things that have happened, but what's funny is that percentage of referrals might be pretty high, but a lot of the folks that I did business with in year 2, 3, and 4 were people that I didn't know, and now they've become great friends.
Right.
And now they're referring people to me. I've got a couple that they were in my Sunday school class. They've referred me 5 transactions in the last 2.5 years. Like what a
blessing.
What a blessing. And I don't take that lightly. Like when someone hands someone to you, you have to perform. Their reputation is on the line. They did that. So I take that pretty seriously.
Yeah. And and that kind of goes into like track record and stuff. So when people are looking, how can they find out someone's track record? Is it just referrals?
Yeah, it's great. So anybody can get online and look somebody up, right? Some people have Zillow accounts, and there's going to be a track of all of their transactions and reviews.
I do for Lake House Dreams.
There you go. Yeah. Google Business, if they have a Google Business page, if they're social media is big, right? Like I researched an agent in Florida yesterday for a friend of mine who's going to sell something down there. And I refer people to out-of-state agents all the time, where I'll actually go through the interview process with the other agents, and I'll find an agent that I think is going to work like me, hopefully, honest and hard. And then I'll introduce them and say, hey, this is someone you can trust in the Sarasota market. This is someone you can trust in the Charlotte market. I don't know those people from anybody. I don't know them. They're strangers.
But if you help interview them, you can know the questions to ask.
Correct. Right. I'm going to their social media, their Instagram. I'm really looking for reviews. What are people saying? And not like, hey, we had a great time. Like I'm looking for honesty, trust, dedication, communication.
How hard they negotiate for you, all that stuff.
Sure. And I am looking to see how much business they do. That's important, right? If someone does 1 or 2 deals a year, they could be great, but that's not a lot of business, right?
What's the average for like a fairly good agent?
Yeah, tough question. I won't answer
every
that.
market's different.
Every
right?
market's
But if you look at
right?
Northern Virginia, even just like around here, what would you say like it's a good average that
so
someone looking for someone that's enough to say, okay, well they know what they're doing.
Full-time agent. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Full-time agent's important. A full-time agent could do 10 deals a year and be really excited about that. A full-time agent could do 35 deals a year. There's agents that do 50 plus, 100 plus, right? Depending on their systems. Last year, I think the national average of all licensed agents, I think was like 5 deals a year. But here's the problem.
How many are part-time?
80% maybe or more of those agents didn't do any deals.
Yeah.
Right. So the numbers are skewed.
Yeah.
So it really just depends. I know folks that will do 5 or 6 luxury deals, farms a year. And they'll make a ton of money, but they're doing 5 or 6 big commercial agents that are selling, those types of things. It really just depends on what they're selling, what market they're in. Just someone who stays constant, busy, understands what's happening.
And like having a variety of different things they've done. They've sold a condo, they've sold a farm maybe, or, maybe commercial even. Yeah.
I love this question. If you're looking for a townhouse and you find someone who only does residential, that's fine. That's their wheelhouse. Right. I love when you see agents that are selling dirt, commercial, I love when you see a lot of residential, but you start getting into all those things, land, because, they've had to learn the nuances of different markets, different loans, different types of construction, new construction, right? I've helped folks buy a lot of dirt. I've introduced them to builders. I bought dirt and built myself. So understanding septic design and well construction and being able to introduce those folks. Like if someone comes to me and says, I want to do this, I'm not going to lie if I've never done it.
Right.
But I'm going to have a network of folks that I can surround them with that says, hey, but it's cool over the last 6 years. I've had $50,000 dirt sales and, a $3 million estate, in Northern Virginia. So, and everything in between, which has been really cool.
So how much did you get on your property, which is a beautiful house, by the way. And that was, you guys picked the house and the land, and you had to know where septic was going to go. It's not on city, is it?
No, it's well in septic.
Yeah. So you had to know all that stuff, or have the right people.
Well, sure. Yeah. I lived in a house that had well and septic, and that scares a lot of folks that have never had it. I prefer it.
I grew up on that.
Right. And so now in the last 6 years, there's been so many transactions and so many inspections where I could kind of speak to it. I'm not an expert there, but I've been around it enough to know this is who you need to talk to, right? Yeah, it's just, we bought raw land. There's soil analysis and perk tests and just understanding the process. I have to deliver people through the process in the right order.
Okay.
Right. So like, hey, this is our study period. These are the things we need to know before we buy the property. If these things don't go well, you can get out of the deal because they didn't go well because we are studying the dirt. Right. There's all these safeties that are built in to protect folks from buying, the wrong piece of dirt.
Right. If you can't put a well or a septic on it.
Sure. Or if you're buying an old house, right? Or if you're buying an old house and you're worried about inspections, the network of folks that, the inspectors that I recommend, the water companies that I recommend, water potability, testing bacteria, all of that stuff is in this healthy Rolodex of people that I've met and done business with for years to where now, hey, I trust this person to lead you correctly. Let me introduce you.
And how long does that process take? Depends on the county.
It depends. It depends on the county. We built our house. It took 9 months from when they broke ground. We had permits that happened, before that. But it depends on what you're building, where you're building. Is it a spec house? Is it custom? Are there things that you're doing along the builder? Right. Depends on the builder.
Well, like for figuring out if it's a good place to build, how long does that take?
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So a study period is generally somewhere between 30 and 60 days when you buy dirt. And that gives you time to do a soil perk test. It gives you time to get a survey done to see if there's any easements that you don't know about. It gives you time to watch where the sun goes down.
Yeah.
It gives you time to look at the covenants and restrictions. It gives you time to see how far you are from church, right? And if anything happens inside of that study period, anything that changes your mind on living there, you are allowed to get out of that contract because that is your period to study.
Oh, that's
just pretty cool.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
So, like getting into reviews and stuff, you mentioned Google Business, but is it more like really referrals? Like how do I know, like if I go to Jacobs & Co. I don't know anyone in the area, I'm just moving here. How do I know that you guys, or that a particular person in Jacobs & Co. is the right person?
Yeah, I mean, I would start with anything you can find online. Start there, right? Yeah. Good agents are going to make it really easy for you to find that they've done a good job. If they don't do that, then that's problematic, right? Yeah. So if you went to My Social or if you went to any of that, you're going to see reviews from past clients of mine.
Yeah.
They don't have to write them, but they're excited to write them because they had a good experience. And so I want them to write them. If someone doesn't, you should be able to ask the agent, ready for this? Hey, are you comfortable sharing 2 or 3 or 4 of your past clients that are looking to buy something like me?
Oh, okay.
And can I call them? Now, some people might be like, well, that's a little... Listen, I ask folks, hey, if I ever have someone that wants to reach out, would you be comfortable just having a 5-minute conversation with folks and letting them know about your experience with me? Yeah. And I've got a handful of people that are ready to answer that call, even if it's a total stranger, because they know it's important in my business.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's nice to have.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
That's why the 92% referrals is the way to go.
Yeah.
All right. So negotiating skills, how important is that? That's huge, right? Because if they don't know how to kind of play the game for you, that's what you're paying someone for. That's like a big part of it. Honestly, understanding how to do the transaction, all that sort of stuff, but getting you the right money or the best time in the market that you're going to get you the best money at that time. So how important is that?
Yeah. So, the first negotiation, and this is, people don't talk about this a lot, but the first negotiation that I'm a part of is when I'm sitting with someone and I'm negotiating my commission with them.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this for a second.
Yeah, let's go.
Right? Yeah. And without getting into real numbers, but buyers and sellers, they want to save as much money as possible. So do I, right? So when you're talking with your prospective agent and you're talking through compensation, which by the way, all compensation on the sell side and the buy side, it's all fully negotiable. There is no standard. There are things that have happened and do happen as a industry norm. Right. It's all negotiable. You are in control of negotiating with your agent what they are getting paid. So if I'm sitting there and I go through this whole presentation and I talk about what I expect to be paid, and they're like, hey, would you do it for like half of that? If I'm like, you know what? Yeah, sure. That's great.
Depends on the property.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I say to folks. So if I'm so willing to cut my commission in half to win this deal, then I'm proving to you that I don't believe in the skills that I'm bringing to the table. Yeah. And so if I cut my commission in half with you, then what do you expect me to do when I'm negotiating with the other side to protect your dollars, right? So, I mean, I have an expectation. I think that I work really hard. I think my reputation speaks for itself. And I handle that negotiation well when it comes to that. Right. But inside of the deal, it's deal to deal, right? Because it depends on the inspections, depends on the condition of the home, depends on how long it's been on the market.
The comps.
Everything, right? So that's why these conversations up front, especially when you're selling a house, that sellers understand full market temperature, full age of their home, how they're comparing to the other people in the neighborhood, so that we don't just go in and throw a number on the board and say, I hope we get that. There's a super formula to getting that. And if you should even get that. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, right? Yeah. Look, I know you wanted to be here, but now that you've seen my work, do you understand why it's probably a better decision to be here?
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't like that. Yeah, I may not like it either, but it's just the truth, right? And so just having those conversations. But once you're inside the deal, you're negotiating inspections. It's not about, you mentioned the word game, and I love winning, and it is gamey, There are some gamesmanship to this, timing and those types of things. As long as it's honest debate and it's honest, back and forth, I'm here for that. There are some agents that play a lot of games and maybe don't play them well and almost deceiving type. Doesn't happen that often. I know a bunch of great people and I've worked with so many great agents, but I have to be okay with conflict.
Right.
If an agent's upset with me or someone's upset with me and they're calling me and something's not gone well and I cower and I'm like, oh no, I hope they don't get upset.
Yeah.
That's not good. Like,
you've never been a people pleaser.
You got to have thick skin, right? I want you you're going to know what I'm thinking respectfully and honestly.
I hope you like me, but
it's okay
if I tell you the truth and you don't, then it is what it is.
It's not personal. I just don't want you to be upset with me later because I didn't tell you the truth now. I say that to be, I don't want you to be upset with me in a month when nobody's buying your house.
Right.
Because we overpriced at $50,000 and you're like, hey, what the heck?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what I think and you may or may not like it, but that's what my knowledge of the market will do.
And so how has the market like really changed over the last, I mean, even since COVID? You started like right before COVID.
Yeah, 19, right? Yeah.
Tough.
So,
or were people buying more then?
Yeah, it's such a complex question, and without getting into the nuts and bolts of it, and I'm certainly not skirting your question, but it depends.
Right.
It depends on what you're doing, what your next step is, what you have to sell versus what you're trying to do. Depends on if this is your forever home or if this is your downsizing home. It depends on if you're retiring soon, if you're buying cash or if you're financing. It's such a layered question where if I knew what you were doing and why you were doing it in the area you wanted to do it in, I could easily answer that question specific to your needs. You know, folks say it all the time. Hey, how's the market? And it's a great question for someone who doesn't do this all the time because they don't know what to say, and that's fine. Basically, what they're saying is, and here's how I answer it. It depends on what you're doing.
Yeah. It depends where you're doing it, and like
depends
what your
on what
goals
you're doing,
are.
right?
Yeah.
And well, what do you mean? Well, are you buying or selling? Are you doing it now? Do you have a baby on the? All that stuff that just depends, right?
And so you buy and sell. So are there big differences in like how those negotiations go down and like setting expectations for the client?
Sure, yeah. Listing a house, so much work goes into before it's even offered out to the public, right? So much work goes into the proper marketing, the proper media, the delivery, the timing. All of the things that are done when we bring this thing to market, we want it to shine in the right time with the right exposure. Being on the buy side, everything depends on what we find and how long it's been on the market, if it's overpriced, all the comparable analysis before we even go and shop. So you got to take one hat off and go to the other, right? Because if I'm going out with buyers, I want to equip them with as much knowledge and power to spend, but not overspend. And there's another thing. I'll just stop right now and say this. My teaching background was personal finance, economics. That's and I've seen a lot of people be house poor, right? And spend too much. And look, it's not my money. It's not my house. I'll say that. If you want me to buy a house for you that you can't afford and bank's going to give you the money, that's your business. But it's important to me for healthy marriages and for people not have the money to save for their retirement and go out on dates. Like, it's important to help people understand proper budgeting.
Right.
What you do with that information is your decision.
Yeah.
But I do bring that up because it's who I was. It's what I taught. So it's important to me.
Yeah. I mean, but you're not like a full financial advisor, but it's more like, hey, is this the mortgage you really can't afford? Can maybe look for something a little smaller, a little bigger? Who knows? Like based on what's really going on, like, is it important for you to go on vacation?
Yeah.
And have money to do stuff like that. If it is, then maybe we look at something a little smaller square footage. Yeah.
So I'll say one more thing there before we move on. I don't give specific financial advice. You can't. I just ask if they've talked about it. Right? Like, hey, have you guys sat down and really talked through what this new budget will look like once you move in?
Right.
And if, it just depends on the age of their kids and what their goals are financially. I don't even give them no opinions or no advice. I just asked, have you considered it?
Okay. So how, like, having that sort of knowledge, like with the financial stuff, obviously you can't get into it, but, how important is that when you're teaching someone about the knowledge of what the actual market is kind of looking like for them in their one unique decision? Like, the transaction that we're discussing, she's going to need to, like have a contingency on it.
Sure.
That's a whole different situation than someone that has the money ready to go and, it's their first time buy or whatever.
Yeah. You know what makes this job super fun for me is that every single day, it doesn't matter how many houses I sell or how many houses I help folks buy, every single day is absolutely different.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely different. Every single transaction, financial awareness, what they have, what they're using, where they're coming from. It's literally nothing is cookie cutter. If you are thinking about hiring an agent that sounds like they're just giving you a speech, that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Back to the communication. My job on the first couple times we meet is I have to fully understand your story, period. End of question. We're not talking about me.
Right.
Unless you ask me something directly, and I'm probably going to answer that question and say, hey, that's a great question.
Yeah, I'll have another coffee. Thanks.
That's a great question, but I can't answer that until I fully understand what you're trying to do.
Right.
And if you have an agent that's like, here's how I go, this is what I do, sign here and let's do this.
Yeah.
Problem.
Right.
Because I have to sell your story or I have to help you buy into your story. And I have to ask the questions that are going to get you thinking about your story after the house.
Right. Exactly.
That's important.
And what are all the things that you really want and how is this going to work? And that every situation is different for sure.
Yeah.
So like having that knowledge, like, is it important when someone's hiring someone that they have that sort of skill set or that's what they should look for is someone that can diagnose exactly what their problem is or exactly what their solution should be?
Yeah. I just think that when you sit down with a stranger to talk about them possibly hiring them to help you do something that you're going to do 3 or 4 times in your life and spend the most money ever, when you leave that meeting, you should want to talk to them again.
Yeah.
You should be like, wow, that was great. He or she really helped me. I don't feel like I was sold anything. They weren't pushy. They didn't put a pen in my hand. They didn't give me a time limit. Like they literally are like, they asked me about my work. They asked me about my timing and what would be comfortable. And they got me thinking about things I never thought of before. I didn't know that was a part of this.
Right.
But they asked the right questions and then they just shut up. Mike, you know me a long time. I talk a lot.
Yeah. That's why you're on here.
I've really had to learn how powerful it is to ask a great question and then just shut my mouth. Especially when we're talking about such a big financial decision. And I'm not just doing that to be polite and be like, so what do you think? I really have to know. And then after you say it, I have to actually consider, I didn't think about it that way.
Right.
That's going to change where we go. That's going to change. Commute's important. They got their new kindergartner that starts school next year and they need to be close to this school because that's what they want. Like there's so many nuances to getting to know their story before we can ever go look at something. That's probably.
Do you have like a list, like a spreadsheet of all the things you ask somebody? No. Or you just get to know them?
I just want to get to know them.
Yeah.
I say something at the first meeting and if we ever talk, anybody that's listening, if we ever talk and I don't do this, you call me on it. When I do an initial meeting with a buyer or seller, I tell them this even before I get there, but I repeat it right up front. I say this, I don't have any paper and I don't have any pens with me. We'll be signing nothing. Because if all I want you to do this meeting is I want you to take a deep breath, relax, know that I'm not going to try to sell you at the end.
Yeah.
And you're going to leave here and you're going to have some time to talk on it, pray about it, interview me again, talk to other people. And when you're ready for us to get started together, cool. It's not happening today.
Yeah.
And what I see is their shoulders start dropping. I see a big exhale at the table. And now we can actually have a conversation because they don't think at the end I'm going to be like, so are you ready to sign?
Well, that's not being the salesy guy, right? It's being like, I would like to sell your house or help you buy a house, but we need to get along first. We need to understand each other because I don't want to go help you buy or sell something and we're going to have a bad time. It can be months, but if you like the person, they like you, we get along, then it's more of a fun process for everyone involved.
It's so interesting you say that. And I can't believe I forgot to say this earlier. And I tell folks this too, right? As much as you are interviewing me to be your agent, I promise I'm interviewing you too.
Yeah.
Because the good news is that God's been faithful to the growth of my business. And, my a good friend and Scott, my broker, he always says, if you generate, you don't have to tolerate.
Oh yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
And
it's just, it speaks
you know
for
what?
yourself.
I've been in interviews with folks where I could see pretty quickly that their goals and their avenue to get there did not align with me, which is not, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I have turned down business before because I knew it wouldn't be a good fit, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just not your guy.
What are some of those things that you're like,
If
obviously we're not naming names.
no, gosh,
no,
no. And look,
but what are the kind of
often.
things they're like, I don't think this is, the right fit for me.
If I can tell that we're not going to work together cohesively,
Okay.
that's important to me. If I even smell dishonesty, that's a non-starter for me. Non-starter.
Yeah.
Or just maybe expectations, right? Like I met someone maybe 6-7 months ago, and they were just like, "Hey, we're going to buy a house in 2026, but we want to start looking at houses this weekend." And I said, "No,
it's not going to be available."
And look, here's what I said: if you want to have a conversation about what you're looking for and why, and
then you tell me when you got the money, you're ready to go. Let's do it.
I don't take folks to see houses until they're pre-approved and locked and loaded, right? And that's at a benefit to them,
right?
I've seen folks fall in love with a house and they're not ready financially, and then their hearts are broken, right? So we have coffee first, Mike.
Yeah,
we have coffee, maybe 2. Before we sign anything, because I need to know that we're a good fit. You need to know that I'm the right guy, but I need to know that I'm also linking arms with someone who I want to work with.
Right.
Because I don't have to work with anybody.
No, you don't. And like I said, it should be fun. You help them find the house and they're thankful and you get the reviews and you did a good job, instead of it's like, butting heads the whole time and, they're crying about stuff.
Well, and listen, there's a lot of crying. There's crying that happens, and I'm here for the crying. That's fine. It's even if it doesn't go smoothly, do we have the rapport to handle bad news together?
Right. Like if you didn't get the house and it's the one you really wanted.
I had a family 2 years ago. We got the 7th house we rode on. I had a family this year. We got the 8th house we rode on. Dang. There was a lot of crying.
Right.
But you know what? I didn't, I just prayed that God would give him the right house at the right time. And I just have to trust that happened. And it seems that when those things happen, they forget the first 7 because they're so excited about the one they got. And it's not that we weren't doing a good job. Sometimes the market is that crazy.
Right. When it's that busy.
100%.
Are there particular areas around here that are way more competitive in terms of like getting into the neighborhoods and stuff like that?
I mean, there's certainly schools are a big thing for folks with school age kids, and not necessarily particular schools, but more where they are close to church, where their friends go, where their small groups from church go. So schools are always kind of a big conversation with folks. So that's kind of a thing. Price points are kind of indicative of different levels of competition, right? The more expensive a house gets, the less people can afford it, and the less people that are out looking, right? So if you have something that's not as expensive, there's more people that can afford it. First time home buyers, there's just so many. It just depends.
Right.
Times of year certainly dictate that. When leases typically end, when school typically gets out. Everyone knows that spring is kind of the market where everyone's in a panic to sell. That's not untrue, but it really just depends on what's happening with interest rates and geopolitically, and there's so many things.
So is most of your business in like Prince William and Fauquier?
Yeah, I love that.
Or is it kind of all over?
I've gone all over. I've closed. I'm licensed in Virginia only, but I've had deals that have gone from Williamsburg to the line in Maryland to the mountains near Strasburg and Basie down 81. So it really just depends.
A lot of driving.
A lot of time in the car. Yeah, a lot of time in the car. But what's really cool is again, I have such a great network of other agents, or if I don't know an agent in an area that they're going and it's not something that I can serve, someone wants to move to Roanoke, I'm not going to drive them to Roanoke.
Right.
But I'm also I don't want them to go down there and find an agent that's not ready to work for them. So then that's when I can refer.
Yeah.
I'll find an agent in Roanoke and introduce you. And if it goes well, then I can introduce you to them.
Yeah, yeah. And then you don't have to drive down there all the time. I mean, I'll go to Smith Mountain Lake, though.
Look, if you want to buy a $10 million house in Roanoke, I will drive.
Okay,
let's be honest.
Okay, perfect.
There are things.
So what are like the next things that you kind of see? It's been, a 6-year anniversary. So where do you see yourself in another 4?
I love that question. This is my wife and I try to do a 1 year, maybe a 5 year, 10 year is a long ways out. We have some cool goals, but they're not really necessarily business driven. They're more family and kind of that type of stuff. It's ever changing. I did my first full flip last year. Absolutely loved that. I've done flips for my own homes that I've lived in, but this was the first time that we purchased a home and renovated it and positioned it back on the market. I love that work. Kathleen's involved. She designs a lot of that. That was really fun. So that's certainly in our future. I'm leaning and learning a lot more about land development and
because you had a piece of land too that was
still do, and we're still and I have some options with that, which is really cool because now I'm meeting new people that are teaching me new things that are just kind of sharpening my skills, which ultimately will come back and help me with clients that want to do that too. So I'm a lifelong learner. I'm a teacher, right? So if I'm not learning something new a couple times a week, then what am I doing, right? But I'm really starting to lean that way, and that's a big 5-year goal for us is to be in a position where we're actually holding properties and developing properties that we may not even sell, that we maybe just keep. And there's a big missional side of that too. One of the God's been so faithful in the growth of the business, which has allowed us to be really sponsor and get behind things in our church perspective that we've been really excited to do that we couldn't afford to do as two teachers. And look, if God took our business away and pointed me in a different direction, it's kind of what we talked about at first. Like, okay. You know what I mean? Like that scares me to say that out loud, and please don't do that. But we have to just be able to be good stewards of where we are and what we have right now. And if we can do that, then just like if my students need to trust me to handle a curveball, then I have to trust that my family can handle a curveball too. And it's not fun to say that, and it wouldn't be fun to have that happen, but there's probably growth there. And there's probably a reason.
I mean, there's curveballs all the time. All you can do is in between those curveballs, work your butt off. Pretty much.
You do what you're going to say when you say you're going to do it. You treat people with respect. And you stay humble. And you look. I'm a humble person, but I do work really hard. And I don't like losing. And I'd put my work ethic up against most people. But I don't want to be arrogant. I am a successful real estate agent. I take no credit for that. I just love helping people. And I'm really grateful that the Lord has blessed me with the business to this point.
Well, and speaking of losing, not to make a joke about it, but you've lost a bunch of weight and you're in much better shape as you get older. As you're hitting this halfway to dead mark, you're going at it much better than you were, 10 years ago. I mean, where do you think that kind of started to change for you? Where you're like, I'm going to take this serious and actually kind of have fun with it. You were in a half marathon, what's changed in your head about it?
We're not going to get emotional.
In fairness, I was heavier too for a while, so
here's what it is. I've always struggled with that stuff. Lack of knowledge on how to fuel and how to eat. And I've struggled with that as many, many people do. And I didn't handle it in a healthy way. And here's what it really happened is a couple of years ago, I looked at Kathleen and I said, I was honest with her and I said this, I feel like I've stolen every summer from our kids because of my crap of not wanting to go to the pool, not wanting to go to the beach, not being in good enough shape to keep up with them. And it was really difficult to know that was absolute truth. And I hired a coach who was
it just kind of clicked one day. You're like, I gotta do something.
I gotta do something about it. It was really last August, right? On my birthday, 44.
Well, that's a time to
right. And I reflected, right? And I hired a coach, and you know what he was? He was honest with me.
You like that?
I like that, but I didn't like being on the receiving end of it.
Yeah, for sure.
But he was honest with me because he cared about me, and he cared about me being around for my family, and he understood that I had a lot of learning to do. And he also understood that it wasn't like hey, you need to do this in 2 months. Like this is going to take you years. And it's just a slow grow of learning. But Mike, I've made it a priority. We cook different. We took alcohol out of our house completely. I'm not against people that drink alcohol. I still have alcohol if we're celebrating something or a glass of wine, things like that. But we took it out of our house. trying to just reset some habits.
Yeah.
I started to learn how nutrition worked and macros worked in a healthy way, slow. I joined a great gym. I've built it into my schedule, and I protect it pretty ferociously.
Non-negotiable
Because
for the most part.
well, it's also my Sabbath time. You know, my pastor challenged me a couple of years ago and said, "Hey, when do you Sabbath?" And I'm like, "What is that?" And he's like, quiet time with the Lord. I'm like, 7 days on, man. Full-time dad, full-time agent, right?
Yeah.
He's like, you got to find something, right? So my Sabbath time is the gym in the morning and in the steam room where I pray.
Oh, nice.
That's it.
I need to find a sauna around here somewhere.
Dude, I mean, Lifetime. I'm not a harmless plug. If you want to give me a free membership, you can.
But I mean, I work out here, so it's like, you know, and I can just do it like right before lunchtime, and it's, you know, I got into working out just because anxiety was crazy, and it's one of the only things that curbs that.
Yeah.
You know, if I sweat a lot that day, that means I sleep better that night.
100%.
You know,
if you sleep better, you're more productive.
Yeah.
Less irritable.
Yeah,
your
exactly.
marriage gets better. Everything you're saying, right? And I've still got miles to go. I'm still not healthy, but here's where I'm at. I'm giving myself a lot of grace, and I know I don't need to get there in a month because I'm going to try to get healthier until I die.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fall off the horse and you know, do the things. But I think what I'm starting to realize is everything in my life that has been successful has been because I found discipline in that area.
Yeah.
I'm a disciplined guy. If something in my life is going well, it's because I exercise discipline in that area. I have a wonderful marriage. I'm starting to see some success in health. I do think I run a great business, but I have some really disciplined habits I do in that.
Yeah.
And areas that in my life that are chaotic or that don't go well, I could show you no discipline in those areas. No plan, no schedule, no commitment.
And the more disciplined you are as a father, the more it shows them how discipline can help them, you know, achieve their success as well. Right.
Buddy, right. Our kids, my oldest is 14.
Jeez,
I've got 3.5, 4 more years where I have concentrated time where just by default, she sees our life. What does a healthy marriage look like or not?
Right.
What is the relationship, a healthy relationship with alcohol and food? You know, the way they communicate, mom and dad communicate. There's so many things that I'm teaching my kids that I don't even realize. And it's very humbling and almost terrifying to always remember that. But it's also really healthy for Kathleen and I to sit down regularly and say like, hey, what does the play look like? Our kids are watching a performance.
Right.
What does it look like?
Yeah.
You know, when they leave in a couple of years, like what are they going to remember on how we handled conflict and how we handled ups and downs and ebbs and flows? And it's our one chance to give them some type of legacy and just pray over them and hope that, you know, that the Lord protects them from those things. But
are they going to be entrepreneurs? Maybe any of them?
Yeah, so interesting. So my oldest,
because you're showing that by example right now too.
She already says she wants to be an entrepreneur. I don't really know what that means for her yet. She's super driven. Yeah, I think so. You know, it's so funny being a high school teacher for so long and just being in the education world and graduate, go to college. And I don't think that way anymore. In the last couple of years, I don't either. The last couple of years I was teaching high school, I had a real problem with just shipping, you know, kids off to college
and have $400,000 in
without
debt.
a plan, right? Look, if you have to go and it's part of your business plan, cool.
Right.
We already started talking to our kids about that. Like, look, of course, if you need it and it works in your story, then go. But you're not just going to go because your friends are going, or if you do, then get your money ready because I'm not paying for 13th grade. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And look, that's more of a joke in our family. And I mean,
if you want to be like a veterinarian or something, you just got to go to school for that.
You need it.
But there's a lot of things these days that you don't, like get into the trades or, you can learn everything you need on YouTube. Yeah. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to know business stuff. Sure. But I learned more about business starting a business than I ever did at business school.
Of course.
The only thing that really, really worked was they taught me to do a 401k when I was young. And I'm very thankful for that. And I wrote a business plan, did all that sort of stuff. But, it didn't. I understand margins and stuff like that. So, but most of it I could have learned by myself.
Yeah, but
most of it I have learned by myself because I'm not even doing what I went to school for.
But you love what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I tell my kids in no particular order, but I always start with the same one. I want you to love Jesus your whole life. Really, just pursue that. After that, I want you to love your work. I want you to have a healthy relationship, with your spouse, but healthy relationships. I want you to be have so much respect for yourself that you don't allow yourself to be in unhealthy relationships, right?
Yeah.
So if you love the Lord and you pursue what you love, whether it's an actual job or a stay-at-home entrepreneur or just an unbelievable mom or dad or whatever it is you decide to do, I want you to wake up so excited to do it and have healthy relationships with those people around you and understand how to navigate them if they're not. As a parent, I don't really know what else I should be doing other than trying to get 2 or 3 big staples. Obviously, their faith, but after that, just showing them the best we can and hoping that and just guiding them. And I don't want them to. I'm not going to say you got to go to college and you got to be this, right? That's not their story, right? But I also don't want them to not have a story.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean,
you ain't living here your whole life.
You're going to get a story no matter what. Yeah, you got to leave it at a certain age.
At some point, it becomes my story.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I the only thing that I think in terms of like the relationships thing, like teaching, we don't have kids, but I wish I would have been taught is how to vet somebody. That's a friend or a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. Like how, and I deserve enough. And if they don't feel that way, peace. I didn't figure that out until I was 30 something.
And you're probably still learning, as I am, on how to do that, right? You're much better at it now, and now you're more focused on it. But I bet you're still practicing the discipline of.
Oh yeah, it happens in friendships and everything. Yeah,
right. So, look, I know a lot of people. Lots of Facebook friends. I'm old, so I have lots of friends, right? But like my inner circle of men that I do life with is pretty small. Obviously it's. Sometimes I hang out with them a bunch. Sometimes it's once or twice a year we catch up. But they're men that I trust, and they're people that I have given permission to speak into my life on honesty. Right?
Yeah.
And outside of that, I just really want to pour into my kids and my wife and protect our marriage and keep it healthy and date my wife. And I don't want to, I don't want to get too far off topic here, but I've just seen, I've met so many people and I've seen so much unhealthy things in regards to relationships and communication, which is where we started. That I just think that's so where we should start any relationship, whether it's personal, business, hiring somebody, keeping someone as a friend, being a partner with somebody. Like, is this person authentically in my corner?
Yeah.
Do they root for me? Are they okay when my life's not going well?
Right.
Check. That's my person.
Yeah.
Not check.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. And the older you get, the more like, okay, they're just here now. They're not in the circle anymore.
And
but
that's okay.
You can still love them like you're supposed to, all that sort of stuff. But I'd rather find that out sooner than later.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas before, like, you're younger, it's like, I really like this person, or they're really fun, but like, no, they just got in a fight with that person. Maybe they're a little dramatic, and I don't put up with any of that anymore. I mean, I'm 44 now, so we're like exactly a year apart, pretty much. So these learning lessons are something that you can't.
Well, what's funny, Mike, is I have a mentor that's a little older than me, and I've talked to him about this kind of stuff in my 40s, and he just always laughs. He's kind of got this little silent giggle, and he just kind of leans in, and he's just like, this is, when the Bible talks about like the beginning of wisdom, like you're starting to just crack the door where I talked a lot in my 20s and 30s. I had an opinion on everything, as you remember. And man, the last couple of years, really since I turned 40, I've just felt like the Lord's, and I'm not doing a great job at it. I'm learning, I'm practicing. But I think if you talk to my close friends, they would tell you that they're starting to see some initial growth in me being a better listener and being a little slower to give an opinion. In fact, maybe not even giving one, and just being like, I hear you, man.
Yeah.
And then shutting up.
Yeah.
Until
Especially when people are going through really tough things. Like, when you go to a funeral or something and someone says, oh, everything happens for a reason. Oh, you should not say that. Just so sorry for your loss.
Put your hand on their shoulder, give them a hug.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of stuff that silence is sometimes better than, which ironically, our old album, Truth and Silence.
Imagine that little wisdom you had way back then when you picked that.
Yeah, right. So, we're kind of wrapping up here, but is there anything else you wanted to mention about, realtor stuff or just about your business and moving forward? How people can even find you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Matt Kitchen Real Estate, like it's all out there. Matt Kitchen Out Loud, it's all on social. But I guess I would end with really just hoping to double down on if I can be a help to somebody, even if it's just coffee conversation, that's fine. You know what I mean? I like helping people. I was a teacher for a long time. And sometimes helping people is pointing them in a different direction and helping them realize something that they didn't realize before the coffee started. I like to drive home and feel like I impacted everybody that I talked to. That doesn't happen every day. It happened a lot at teaching, which I miss. My soul misses that for sure. But I just want to be a resource. I want to help. If we end up doing business together, awesome. If you don't think I'm the right fit, fine. It's not personal, and maybe we're not a good fit, and maybe I don't want to work with you either. That's okay. Right. It's just like, hey, whoever God brings into my life professionally, I'm going to do the best I can for them, and just let it rest right there. But I'm more focused on relationships than anything else. If I treat people right and I do what I say I'm going to do and business comes out of it, cool. It's not my intention.
Right.
And that's what a lot of salesmen say.
Yeah. How do you not be salesy while you sell?
Well, once it's time to sell, we're selling.
Okay.
Right? Like once we, at the end of the day, I'm selling something or I'm helping you buy something and I've got to put that hat on. If our relationship starts there, even if we don't know each other, by the time we finish that first meeting or two, I want you to know about my family. I want to know about yours. I want it to be about our stories. Yeah. And then we can talk about business on the second time.
Yeah. Okay. So we really understand somebody and then,
You've got to feel good about me before we sign a piece of paper. I've got to feel good about you before we sign a piece of paper. And generally, after a meeting or two, I think people see the sincerity of that and they can talk to folks or if they know me and we're introduced, that'll speak for itself. Yeah. But it's really okay if it doesn't.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And then, so for the last question I have for you, like your social media and stuff like that, when are you starting your podcast?
Oh, gosh. Scott,
you said people call you out.
No, I love that. Look, here's the reality. Maybe, I'll peel it back just a little bit, but I don't want to go too long into it. I stepped away from being really active on social a couple years ago, which in my industry is not what you should do. Yeah. Because I really wanted to learn how to reshift my focus on being a listener and being someone who is observant and not always be the guy that has something to say. Yeah. And it's hard in my industry because great agents have those bad agents that have good social media too. Yeah. But it's just inundated. Well, when you go to my social, I don't want 97% of the things I do to be all the houses I sold last month. Right. It's okay if it is. There's agents out there that show their market stuff every month and they're killing it. And I put a big heart on it. I'm like, hey,
honestly, all these clips that I give you, that's going to be easy social media for you. It shows who you are.
And I'll share them. But I just don't want it to be, I want it to be 80% about who I am as a person and my family and how I'm involved in church and what, that stuff that, I just happen to be, this is my business, but this is me, but this is what I do for business.
Right. Well, that's kind of the first step. And when someone sits down with you, you're showing all that stuff. That would be the only reason to keep doing it the way that you're doing it. Yeah. So that when they sit down, he's a family man, he does sell stuff, but this is who he is. He's, got a wonderful wife, who's sang on one of my songs. So it was, I think that will be helpful not to just be like, I'm a sort of person.
Listen, I've asked you, you know this about me. I want to do a podcast. I want social media. I love speaking. Yeah. I love being on camera. It doesn't bother me. I'm comfortable. I spoke in front of people my whole life. I'm just trying to find the right avenue to park it in. Yeah. And I don't really want it to be real estate related. I want it to be marriage related, or parenting
I can
related,
see that. Yeah.
Or something with Kathleen or something with my kids. Yeah. Where it's just light and fun, but also encouraging to people. Not like I've got a lot of great things to say, but just being real. Yeah. So I don't know. We're trying to figure that out. Yeah. And we're waiting for something to feel right.
Right. I feel you. Yeah. Well, you did great today.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining me.
It's really cool to see your growth. You've been a constant friend for a long time and our paths have gone, in communication. We've communicated more here and there, but you've always been a brother and I'm looking forward to the next season of adulthood and kind of reshaping how much time we get to spend together.
Yeah.
And I'm just super amped about all the things that you're doing, and know that you're just scratching the surface of what you're going to do.
That's what I'm believing.
And you keep believing it, man, because she keeps showing up, you keep working hard, you keep treating people right, and God will bless that.
Yeah, I think so.
Certainly will. So I appreciate you having me.
All right, sweet brother. Thanks.
Cool, man.